Welcome to The Curious Cooks. I'm Tracey Cotterell and I'm here with my curious friend, Kate Flower. And on this episode, we are talking to Dr Kyla Smith. She is a dietitian and we're talking mixed messaging and how food marketing affects what ends up on our plate.
So amongst all the noise, social media, marketing, advertising, Kyla is able to offer some really strong tips about how to cut through the noise and just enjoy your food with your family. And for all ages, there's something in it for everybody.
Absolutely. She also talks about food literacy, which is one thing that I picked up on and I thought, what a fantastic thing to talk about for everyone. Food literacy is important.
You really enjoyed that part.
Love it.
Kyla is a dietitian who doesn't let the rules get in the way of a good meal, and we approve.
I know, she's one of Australia's most renowned paediatric dietitians.
I know.
And I think she's got this lovely, balanced, very down-to-earth approach about how understanding how people's lives are so nuanced. Everyone's different.
I know, that's what I loved about talking to her. There was something in it for you, something in it for me. I've got 3 children. You're an empty nester now. So I hope that this conversation with Dr. Kyla Smith offers you a few little nuggets of gold to help you cut through the noise and just enjoy food. Feel the joy.
Let's get into it. On today's episode, we're deep diving into mixed messaging, food marketing and how it manipulates what lands on our plates. And to lend her expertise to the conversation today, we're delighted to be joined by Dr. Kyla Smith. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Such a pleasure to catch her. I was saying,
Very exciting.
I worked with Kyla in her early days of starting up Mealtimes, and it was such a fun time and such a dynamic business you were starting up. So it's so lovely to circle back and hear from you again. So I'm just going to do a little intro and tell everyone how amazing you are. Dr. Kyla is a Perth-based paediatric dietitian who's become one of Australia's most trusted voices when it comes to feeding children well. Kyla holds a PhD in childhood weight management and has spent over 20 years working with families, both in clinic and online, helping them find calmer, more confident ways to feed their children. She's also the founder of Mealtimes membership, the original and best online Australian resource that's guided thousands of parents through the challenge of picky eaters, busy schedules, and the pressure to get it right at the table, which I completely understand now that I've been through the whole journey of young children.
It's ever evolving, isn't it? There's always something new.
Nothing ever stays the same.
You think you've got it right, tick, and on we go.
But you liked that yesterday. That's what I said at the table.
Yeah, we'll circle back to this conversation. Beyond her impressive credentials, Kyla brings something equally important, the lived experience of being a mum of 2. She knows firsthand the juggle of family life, the overwhelm of too much information, and the desire to raise children who feel at ease around food. I've had the privilege of working alongside Kyla in the early days of Mealtime, which was so much fun, developing recipes and styling food while she was still building her business and welcoming her little ones into the world. What's always struck me about her is she's grounded, she's got a no-nonsense approach, and her genuine care for families is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
My pleasure, absolutely. Kyla's built a well-deserved following of parents who trust her not just for her expertise, but for her compassion and perspective, which you have in abundance. Welcome, Dr. Kyla. Thank you so much for joining us. We can't wait to dive into this conversation.
Oh, if you're going to speak to me like that, I'll come back every week. That was lovely.
Go. Well, I'm going to start with the first question because just a little bit of context around this question as well is that my daughter is also, she is a dietitian. So she's a qualified dietitian, not nutritionist.
Yes.
And this is leading up to that question. And she's always told me that there's a difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist, in not too many words, certain words, and a wellness coach. Can you explain, Kyla, what is the difference between a dietitian, a nutritionist, and a wellness coach? Because there's so many people out there.
And it's a pet peeve for dietitians, this classification.
That's why we brought it up early.
Yes, get it out of the way. Look, a dietitian has to have a certain level of training and qualification. So a really regulated industry. For most dietitians in Australia, it's at least 5 years of university study, including a master's. So it's a significant commitment. To be a nutritionist or to be a wellness coach, there is no real rule. to do that. Anybody could call themselves a nutritionist. Anybody could call themselves a wellness coach. You could make up your own
So it's not regulated.
title. It's not regulated anyway. There are undergraduate nutrition courses, so you can study 3 years of nutrition at university and be a nutritionist, but you could also make up your own title and be a nutritionist. So not protected in the same way.
Then a nutritionist basically means somebody who knows something about food.
Not even
that. Okay.
somebody who has an opinion about food.
We can't be sure. It could be you or I.
There are lots of really qualified nutritionists who have done a lot of study or research or work, but there are also a huge number of nutritionists in inverted commas who are spruiking all sorts of misinformation.
Which is a shame for the more, informed nutritionists.
And I think that is an absolutely valid point on the mixed messages. Why do we keep getting mixed messages about what to eat and why? So that's...
And how would a regular person know if somebody said, like, well, I'm a functional nutritionist? How would they know that that's a made-up title? Like,
no, exactly.
It's confusing.
It
sounds
pretty
convincing.
impressive.
Sounds really good. Yeah, I'd like to be one of them.
So, Kyla, you say that you believe there's room for all foods in our diet, so you'll never label foods as good or bad. Tell us a bit more about how you feel about that.
That can be a bit confusing for people when they first hear that. So one of the things that I'm really passionate about is that you can eat a nutritious, healthy diet and still include all sorts of foods. You can, if you really like to drink Coke Zero, you can include that in a healthy diet.
That's why I want you to be my dietitian.
If you like ice cream, you can absolutely include that in a healthy diet. And I think for too long we've been stuck with this rhetoric that there is a good food or a bad food. And we have so many foods in our food supply now. There is no cutoff that makes something good or bad. You might make a muffin that contains sugar in it, which some people will demonize as bad, but it might also have banana and spinach and a source of fiber. And I'm absolutely not going to say that's a bad thing. You shouldn't have it. It just doesn't work. As soon as we associate the ideas of good or bad or morality with food, I think eating gets so much more complex and so much more laden with guilt or worry or shame. And so I really think that we can, in a nutritious diet, fit in all sorts of foods. It doesn't have to be exclusionary. You don't have to cut things out all the time.
I needed to catch up with you for a coffee about 3 years ago, so I didn't make all the terrible mistakes I've made about telling my children that certain things they were choosing to eat in their teenage lives. They'll love hearing this. Is bad. And I know, as soon as you say it, you almost feel like, I know this is wrong. I should not be using this language around, this particular food, especially when it's not their main source of nutrition. But everyone should be able to enjoy eating.
It comes from a good place though, right? It's well intended. When you're talking about food and you're trying to teach lessons, it's really hard to, that's the easiest way to classify things as good or bad.
You need to simplify it, don't you?
But if you call something a bad food, it doesn't stop kids or adults really eating it. It just makes them feel bad when they eat it.
Yeah.
And so instead,
so true.
Our message can be about variety or including more diversity in our food and, having things that you enjoy and things that you eat for health, all sorts of reasons without being good and bad. When it slips into that, and for young children, which I work with primarily, it's really confusing because if you tell you're sorting foods into good and bad, which so many daycares and schools do, and you had cake, most likely that will go in the bad pile, right? Mm-hmm. Then you go to your sister's birthday, you're 4, and there's cake.
Oh my gosh.
And you're feeling guilty.
What do you do? You're like, Mum, I thought this was bad.
Yeah.
But my safe people are giving it to me. Yeah. What does that mean? And so we're trying to reduce this complexity of nutrition and food and eating habits and life into yes or no. And I just don't think that ever fits. People live messy, chaotic lives that are not black or white. And I just don't think food works in that way.
I mean, not us, but other people.
Other people, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Messy, chaotic. Now, you run Tuesday's review that dig into the fat in the food. So tell us a little bit more about that because I think this is so useful. I love it. And then we're going to get you to run one on a product that both Kate and I bought in today. So let's hear about this.
So Tuesday reviews are done on a chew as in biting and chewing, but they're done on a Tuesday.
Clever.
I know.
Very clever. See what she did there?
It's something that I started back in 2016 when I was first kind of venturing into the online social media. And people would ask a lot of questions about, is this yogurt any good, or is this okay? And I didn't have kids at that time. And so I was just spending so long in the yogurt aisle or in the package aisle, looking at these things and working out what was in them. And I thought, I really need to, I'm doing this anyway. I may as well write it down and share it. And even back in those days, that was 9 years ago, and I was much more rigid in my criteria and my cutoffs and all of those things, which has evolved over time. But essentially what I do is look at a product that is in an Australian supermarket at the moment, Coles, Woolies, Aldi, all of the things, and then just kind of look at what it claims to be, what's in it. There are absolutely times where people are fooled by what's written on the packet. I look at the nutrition component, the ingredients, and then kind of just explain it so that people can decide, is this something I want to buy? And it does frustrate people that I don't say tick or cross or red or green.
Good or bad.
Yeah. And there are things
It's a guide, not a definitive,
guide.
Don't eat it or do eat it.
Yeah, I just don't believe it fits. So it's more like, this is what it is. Do you want to fit that into your family's diet or not?
Well, this is what this is. So I was in the shops yesterday, and protein seems to be the marketing keyword at the moment. So I picked up this Wicked Sister high protein banana pudding and strawberry pudding. I mean, they've got fruit in them.
Two separate
and
products,
and they both say high protein, 15 grams.
So when you look at these products, what is your first thought?
I mean, personally, I wouldn't buy it for my kids, but I thought it was really interesting, and it was in the specials aisle and it was staring at me. My first thought is it's probably good to give to kids when they're doing sport or they need a big protein hit.
If you want to know what I would think about this, is I would just pass it by.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
it's highly processed is what I think.
Yeah, I would. It's got strawberry pudding, so that gives
not
me
yogurt.
no idea of what's
it
in
is.
it, and it's got protein, no added sugar. But I would then, because I don't buy many packaged things, I would just pass it by, because that no added sugar, it'd be interesting to see what's in it now. I've said that.
Let's
other
have a look
sugar
at
is
it.
in there.
So when you look at something like this, the marketing on the front is all about the protein, right? Which is your popular buzzword of the moment. Everybody's obsessed with protein. Interestingly, for Australian children, which is obviously my market, our data shows that kids get about 4 times what they need on a daily basis in terms of protein.
Oh, my son's at me all the time. I think he gets 10 times.
Wow.
And so if we actually something like that would exceed a kid's daily protein requirements.
Wow.
It's wild when you look at how much they actually need. And it's all about our interpretation, right? If it's high protein, that's probably important for them if they're growing. I should maybe be thinking about that.
If they're telling us it's high protein, that must be a positive thing.
Absolutely. So they're already kind of inferring that that's, 15 grams of protein, no added sugar. If we look at what's in it, the ingredient in the biggest quantity by weight is water. The next ingredient is milk protein concentrate. So the protein part of milk.
Yeah.
Which is like skim milk powder.
Processed.
It's been processed. I am less worried about processing. Again, I don't think it's a black or white scenario.
Yeah.
There are going to be times when food is processed and it's
still
nutritious.
Fine.
Yeah. So not my first concern, but something I would consider. The next ingredient is cream, then skim milk powder, and then banana puree, which is 5% banana.
But there does seem to be a lot of banana on the label.
That's more than 5%, I would be guessing.
Definitely.
So the rules in Australia are that if you have an ingredient in the title, you have to declare in the ingredients list how much of that by weight is from that food.
Good to know.
So when you have a look, baby food's particularly bad for this. It's lentil and whatever, and the lentil is 2% in the. So 5% banana, and then sweeteners. So this is an artificially sweetened product. So no added sugar in terms of no added white sugar, but
and what's your
sweeteners.
General vibe on added sugars? Artificial sugars, as opposed to just having 2 teaspoons of sugar in that product.
Yeah, my preference for when I'm buying for my family is to not buy artificial sweeteners. Our evidence, though, around artificial sweeteners is really robust. Like the amount of this that you would have to eat more than your body weight.
So it's not dangerous.
It is not dangerous. The quantities that we're
cancer.
consuming, it is absolutely not linked to cancer. There was so much misinformation in the past 2 decades probably, and it's one headline that causes a lot of fear and panic. So I don't think it's something we need. I don't think it's something we need to be fearful of. If I was having a can of Coke, I would choose a Coke Zero.
Sure.
But I would prefer...
Because Coke is just so laden with sugar.
Yeah, and I just prefer the taste of Coke Zero. But I'm not scared of the artificial sweetener, but I'm also not actively seeking out that as a better option.
Sure.
So, and then some stabilisers, some natural flavours, emulsifier, natural colour. Less bothered about those overall. So when I look at that, I mean, it's a bit of like a protein powder made into a pudding.
It is. Did you say your daughter had tried it and didn't like it?
She tried the chocolate one and she was like, is this supposed to be a mousse? Because I think they need to add something so it's not chewy. And I was like, oh.
Our children are so much more discerning these days. You can't just give them whatever. They're like, oh no.
But that's so great that they can she can then take out, because I used to teach in the kids' classes, matters of taste, like what's the difference between taste and texture. And a lot of younger kids couldn't get the difference. They collapsed the two together, and so that was one of the main things that I was teaching them was with the flavour in your mouth, as opposed to the texture. And then they started to get it and really had great conversations around the table about, okay, so if you're not sure that you like this, what is the bit that you don't like? Is it the texture or is it the flavour? And then kids could then articulate why they didn't like it.
And this is something that I wish we would teach kids instead of trying to teach them about good and bad food.
Just how to
taste
break it down
and enjoy it, and what does it feel like, and what's the sensation like, and making sense of that, and that kind of mindfulness with eating, but also being aware of what it feels like in your mouth and all of those things, rather than like, oh, that's a bad food, stay away.
Yeah. Great reminder.
Okay,
so
and mine,
we have Tracey's.
Mine is organic rolled oats, and contains beta glucan on the front, and it is Australian certified organic.
It's creamy style as well.
It's creamy style.
How does this happen?
Well, because you cook it, I suppose, with a bit of milk. I don't know. But on the back, it does say contains gluten. So just have a little look at that.
Okay. So when I'm looking at these oats, and it's also got a health star rating on it, so 5 stars on the health star rating.
I didn't even see that. See, my brain doesn't even register that.
The health star rating is a health promotion initiative, and essentially it's designed to help people make sense of products. It is flawed in some ways, but it is also, I really want to acknowledge how hard it is to have a way to explain food to people, breaking it down into all of the complexities of nutrition. And so the idea with the health star rating is that compared to other foods in a similar food group, this one rates highly in terms of nutrition. And so that's where it can get really confusing, because you can have a 4-star chicken nugget because it rates better than other nuggets in that kind of
I didn't
space.
know that.
So it depends.
It's not compared to other chicken products,
or an apple,
roast chicken, or
no, but there are still criteria that they have to abide by, but to get that rating. But again, it only applies to things in food packaging.
Yep.
So fresh fruit and veg. Don't get that. But also, it's impossible to compare a chicken nugget to an apple. Because I wouldn't expect a chicken nugget to provide fibre like an apple would. But also, apple doesn't have protein like a chicken nugget would. So it's comparing apples and oranges.
Well, you've got to compare apples with apples, haven't you?
Essentially.
You can't compare.
Yeah. And then that's where it gets tricky, because there are so many thousands of food products that you've got to then rank them and make sense of them. It's tough.
The oats, to me, I've always been confused about, do oats actually contain gluten, or are oats then processed on a machine that has had gluten products on it before?
It's mostly to do with the food processing and cross-contamination.
Not being able to say this is gluten-free.
Yeah, and you have to be really clear to say this is gluten-free. And that's a really hard thing for cereal companies to be able to do. So if we look at this, Australian certified organic, that tells me about the way it was grown. It really does not have any impact on nutrition. So if you're choosing... We have just
been talking to a farmer who was educating us on the same thing.
Yeah, and so if you're talking about oats that are... like, if you like to buy organic, amazing, but you also pay for it. So if you have a limited food budget, probably spending it on organic food is not where I'd be encouraging you to do that. Contains beta-glucan. That is a health claim, so that is something that is really regulated by our food standards body. That is to do with the impact on cholesterol, a few different things. So oats are a known source of beta-glucan. They can put it on if they can prove that they have.
Okay. So that,
but at what level?
So like all oats would have beta-glucan.
Yep. And then, I mean, some of the writing.
Well,
rolled oats are a cut above the rest, owing to our gentle steam stabilization process. Unlike kiln drying, this method locks in oats' naturally creamy flavour and texture once cooked.
Creamy flavour. Oh, it's creamy flavour, so it tastes like cream. That's the only creamy flavour there is.
They've been put through a process that kind of almost breaks the oat up a little bit. So when you cook it, it's going to break down into the milk and.
Well, I use regular rolled oats and I get a creamy porridge. So.
What about steel cut oats? I did that for a while, and that was a lot of chewing.
It's a lot of effort.
Yeah,
it's
essentially
it takes
a long time.
Yeah, and I think the idea is, and I used to be like a bit evangelical about quick oats versus rolled oats, but realistically, the impact on your body is so small. Like that, yes, they're a little bit more broken up. Yes, they might reach your bloodstream a little bit quicker, but we're talking, splitting hairs here. Yeah. If you're going to eat oats as a breakfast, whether they're steel cut, rolled, quick oats, amazing.
So it's like watching like a sprint final at the Olympics.
Yes, 0.1 of a second. Cool.
Yeah. Okay, great. I'm glad we know that now.
What are these cost-wise compared to a supermarket?
I bought a little while ago. I don't think too bad because Red Tractor I think is quite a big company and there's lots of that brand in the supermarket as well, and I think if it was way over the top they just wouldn't.
Having a look at that though, creamy style, that there is no regulation over the word creamy style, so you could
just
are your meatballs creamy style? Just checking.
They're definitely not creamy style.
There you go, tick.
Yeah, okay. Tracey, I wanted to introduce our listeners to our proud Series 1 podcast sponsor, Urban Forager. They make the most delicious organic stock concentrate in WA and they're great friends of ours.
Oh, absolutely. And it is just full of flavour and real ingredients with no nasties in.
Love that.
Thing that I love about it as well is once it's opened, it keeps in the fridge for up to 12 months.
Not in my house because we've always used it well and truly before then.
Yeah, it's so useful and it's such great value. Yeah. So making 1 litre of stock is just over $2 and there's 10 litres in that little jar.
Fantastic to have in there, and because it's a concentrate I use it in a variety of ways. It's super versatile, not just soup but also I might throw it into meatballs, dips, dressings, sauces. I love it. Delicious.
Absolutely. So everyone jump online to urbanforager.com.au where you can get 20% off.
You just need to use code CURIOUS20 for 20% off when you shop with Urban Forager. Thanks guys.
Enjoy.
So the power of marketing versus science. It should be really clear cut. Obviously, where you're here and you are speaking from experience. So from your experience, what do you think marketing messages about food, why do you think marketing messages about food land harder than the actual nutritional science? I mean, food marketing spend in Australia was 414 million and the government spend on healthy eating guidelines and programs, although it's not really clear because it's broken up into various areas, was around 86 million.
It's just not comparable, is it?
So 5 times as much advertising by by big corporations.
Which is probably an underestimate, really, when you look at the marketing. Yeah. I mean, they're trying to make money, right? So they're spending a lot of money working out how to phrase things so that you think this is something you absolutely need or is really important to have. The difficulty with nutrition is it's not a cool message. Like, it's the same message that we've had for a really long time. Like, eat a variety of foods, eat fruits and vegetables and grains and like fresh foods. That is not a sexy message, and food manufacturers can really try and manipulate their consumers to buy a product thinking it's an essential part of their diet, and that's how they make money. So it's really hard to compare this kind of standard rhetoric with
And so we need to take responsibility as individuals to be a little bit educated, don't we?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's such a cool thing to know, because it gives you so much more confidence when you go to shop. You know what you're looking for, or you know what you're not looking for.
I think if you have a healthy skepticism, I mean, manufacturers can't lie, food industry can't lie on the packaging. I think it's great to have a natural skepticism that they're trying to sell you something. So decide ahead of time what you think you want in your food trolley, and if you want to try a product and see what it's like, great, but don't necessarily be sucked in by what it says on the front.
And maybe just try and keep a few more fresh products and boxed products.
Honestly, that's kind of how I live. I actually don't read a lot of food labels anymore, other than when I'm reviewing a new product. But I think the basics kind of apply. Like if you're eating mostly core foods, then whatever non-core foods you choose, choose the ones you like.
Yeah, great.
Go for it.
The icing on the cake. Oh, there's that word cake. Have we said cake before?
Naughty.
Cake. Love cake. So if we take a walk down, this has always made me laugh, the health food aisle in the supermarket, you're being shouted at from every package: vegan, gluten-free, protein. So what are you thinking when you wander that particular aisle? As you've just said, you know a lot about. You can just almost, I would say, glance. Yes.
I would say you are walking down the most expensive aisle in the supermarket. And you are essentially paying for a lot of that marketing, that, idea that this is a better choice. Most of the time, the food there are some great things in the health food aisle. There are some things that I probably wouldn't buy either. I don't think it's a bit of a health halo, right? It's this idea that is better because it's from this section. And I'm guessing that there are companies that pay a lot of money to be put in the health food section.
Just remember
of the
the people who you can see at eye level, all of those brands have paid to be there.
Yes.
With me and Kate would be eye level the next shelf. I would be eye level
with you, Tracey.
on the lower shelves. But anyway, there we go. So
I wonder why my shopping was costing so much. Okay, so we're going to throw a few terms at you.
Okay.
And see
rapid fire.
Think. Yeah, rapid fire. Okay, source of protein.
A source of protein is something that is regulated by FSANZ, our authority body. It basically means there's 5 grams of protein per serve.
Okay.
So you have to have that. If you have
as a minimum
5 or 10 or 20, doesn't matter. But a source generally, when it applies to other foods, if you say other nutrients, it just means that there's some in there. It doesn't necessarily mean
and we're
it's
choosing the most popular words for now and drawing
100%.
those out of our foods, and that's obviously a very popular one. Light.
Light can mean anything you like. Light can mean light in colour, light in flavour, light in weight. So it's a smaller packet. It can mean anything. And so people infer that it is a lower fat product and that it's not necessary.
Does that even mean that it's better?
No.
Great. Okay. Guilt-free, cholesterol-free, gluten-free.
I think when you say that something is free of something, it sounds like you've taken out the problematic part of it. Yeah. Gluten-free, absolutely critical for somebody who has celiac disease.
Totally.
For somebody who doesn't have celiac disease, it does not make the product healthier in the slightest. So guilt-free is one of my personal pet peeves. I think all food should be guilt-free.
Of course.
And so you're basically insinuating that this is I'm guessing, lower calorie version of something, or that's really it's diet culture in disguise.
Anything with guilt-free on it.
Oh, it's used regularly.
Oh, really?
You need to get back in that health food aisle, my friend. It is basically a product that's, maybe it was a biscuit or whatever that already exists, and then this company has twisted and turned it into something that has no added sugar and no this and no that, but ultimately, is it more nutritious?
And it doesn't even mean that it is. It's just like this inferring, you can enjoy this without feeling bad. And I just don't subscribe to that.
But if you could whisper that into my ear every day before
I enjoy chocolate. I don't feel guilty. Isn't it our choice?
I don't.
I think, though, that's a really amazing place to be, because I would say, so particularly for women, if you were raised in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, you were handed a hefty dose of diet culture. Absolutely. And believing that you needed to control your body and make it the smallest you could and control your eating, and that food is the battle and that you must be on your guard at all times. Yeah. And that is a really exhausting way to live. So if you don't have that in your brain at all times, that is a real freedom that most people don't have.
I did for a long time, but I think as I've worked with food more and been more in control of what I choose to do, I've let it go. I eat way more healthy food, and then sometimes I eat a whole block of family chocolate. Less so in the last few years, but just because I can't actually do it anymore. I used to be able to do it no problems, and now I'm just like, ooh, that's hard. But it's nice just to go, oh well, you're doing pretty well generally across the board.
Yeah, and it's been baked into us for such a long time. I mean, I had my year 2 daily writing book came out of the memories box the other day, and on the first page I'd written, we've been to Safety Bay and we went to the bakery and we had a bee sting and it was yum. And my year 2 teacher wrote, careful of bee stings, you'll get fat. No! On my daily writing pad in 1992.
Goodness
because
me.
It was so normal to be like, you don't want to be fat, you should control your eating, to a 7-year-old girl.
And it's still lingering
it's still lingering in
generations.
So many areas.
My mum went to Weight Watchers in the glory days of weight loss. And
almost everybody did in that.
I know, and they would go there, and Mum came home one day and she said, I'd put on weight, so I had to stand in the corner in a piggy bib. Can you imagine?
No.
So anyway.
Yeah, and this is the whole message in those decades was based on guilt and shame. Yeah. Like, that is the worst thing you could do. And there's
how embarrassing. Hangover from that.
Oh, huge.
Because I think Anthony and I went on something like that. It wasn't Weight Watchers, and it says, and the thing that I remember is, what you eat in private shows in public.
Oh gross.
God. All right, we'll move on from that. So I could go through all of these various, announcements that are on packaging, but when a product claims it's sugar-free, low-carb, immune-boosting, whatever it is, what questions do you think a consumer should ask before they decide to pop it in their trolley?
I mean, I'd probably just ignore what was written on the front, really. What questions would you ask? I would look at the ingredients list, maybe glance at the nutrition panel. I would just ask yourself, is that something you want to have in your trolley? And if you like it, great.
I've just thought, like, if you spend so much time on your grocery shopping, reading labels and everything, wouldn't a time-saving tip be to just buy things that aren't in packets?
It is,
but it's unrealistic. Though.
Yeah, I mean, I've got 3.
What do you have for breakfast?
You hear where I come from, though?
My kids,
eggs, bacon.
Yeah, but my kids.
Yeah, but they're in packets.
Oh yes, but there's.
But where do you draw the line then?
Exactly.
And my children are like, please buy some stuff
fruit,
in packets.
Vegetables. No, not fruit.
But today I sent them off with the meatballs. So this is the recipe that I have produced for today. So every week we'll have a recipe and share it with the listeners. And in working with Kyla back in the day, there are a few lunchbox meatballs thrown around. This one, I'm really good at grabbing things out of the fridge and going, what have I got left over? So this was pork mince, some breadcrumbs, an egg. I had spring onion, I grated a carrot, I had some leftover coriander, and also there was a jar of curry paste, so I chucked a bit of that in, and I had bone broth, because I work with a company who produce it. It's beautiful. Threw a bit of that in as well.
Perfect.
So,
as in the paste.
As in the bone broth paste. So if I was going to sell this to you, I'd say high protein. I'd say, I don't know,
all natural,
veggie packed with veggies.
But it's
fiber boosting, gut
health. If it's over 5% or something, whatever.
Yeah, it's definitely over 5%.
Yeah.
So we'll try those later on.
Great.
So
we're on to government. We're on to government regulation, which is probably a bit dry. So let's try not to sit here for too long, because we want this to be fun for the listeners. And you have also given us a little bit of insight already into government regulation. So if we're looking for correct information on food, rather than navigating marketing spin in the health food aisle or wherever, is government information a good place to start, do you think?
Yes. Yes. Having said that, it's not fancy. Like, the message hasn't changed. It's really hard to reinvent a consistent message about eat a variety of nutritious foods, into something that people want. Like, they want something that's a quick fix. They want a pudding that meets their requirements. They want to take a pill. They want the magic powder, which I understand. We're really busy. It's hard to sometimes even do all your shopping and cook the meals and eat the food and do all the things. So yes, our government nutrition messaging is absolutely bang on point, and it's just really hard to make that fun and exciting.
So is there any truth in the fact that, big companies have been able to kind of, I guess, support governments and then have any of that health food information, or
so pay for studies to be done.
A little
and
bit,
things
yeah.
like that.
Do you think there's any truth in that, or
not in Australia? There are absolutely like industry funded studies that you can draw on, but the dietary guidelines are based on 55,000 pieces of evidence, like huge numbers. We are very different to America. Our regulation system is very tight. Our recommendations are not influenced by industry. To some extent there are, like the way that our nutrition panel is laid out was influenced by industry. The rules around kind of marketing are definitely influenced by industry, but our recommendations around health are not. And anybody who claims that, I would question what their vested interest is, because there is a lot of money to be made from making people suspicious of the government or what their health system. Here's what doctors don't want you to know. Like, I can guarantee if you are a health professional, you are working so hard to help people from a health point of view. You are not hiding the secret. You are not
withholding
concealing things. You are not in big dairy or big potato or whatever it is. Like it's actually outrageous.
True.
Great.
So where did the food pyramid come from then? Because that's government, isn't it?
No, the food pyramid actually hasn't been used since the 90s. So the government supported one is our healthy eating plate, which is based on the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating. That is something that has been in place for at least the last 20 years or so.
We're showing our age.
Well, the food pyramid, that's touted. Like the food pyramid comes up in a lot of misinformation, particularly on social media. Look at this, they're still touting something from the 70s. It's like, actually, no, that hasn't been used.
It's
for
around
a very long time. And guess what? Nutrition and science evolves. Like it does. And so things that were told to us back then have improved and changed, not significantly. Like our messaging around eat a variety of the core food groups has pretty much been the same for years. It's really just trying to discredit that basic staid piece of advice.
And it's such a shame because we're now, I feel like we can get so easily confused. When should we stop eating? Now we're fasting. Now women shouldn't fast. Now, try and have a break. There's just, it's coming at us thick and fast. Should we be on a juice cleanse? Actually, no, there's no fibre in, I'm just, we can be sent reeling with the huge amounts of information that are coming at us, and a whole lot of it is just...
And if you don't have that background, it's really hard to sort fact from fiction. And especially like a bit like nutrition marketing, people who are selling you a diet, essentially, what you're describing there, are using marketing. They're trying to appeal to a sense of you're not doing well enough, you could have this, you need that. And it's like there is actually no long-term evidence that any diet can make people's bodies smaller. Like we do not. There's so much research.
And that's not necessarily the most important factor. Is your body smaller than it was before?
No, but that is a drive for a lot of people. But actually, I can't believe that our diet industry is still so big when we have no evidence that any of it works. But people are marketed to be like, well, you didn't do it right. Like you didn't do it long enough, or you didn't do the right one. You've just got to try this diet.
Or when you finish a diet and you go back to regular eating, oh my gosh, all the weight gets put back on again. But you need to have a diet for life rather than a diet.
And I think that's a good
that's probably
criteria.
What I've done as well, is I've had a diet for life. I've never dieted. My dad has never dieted. He's 81. He's super healthy. I know genetics absolutely play a part, but he's kept his weight down. He swims a bit and he eats mostly whole food and, has a few drinks and
probably doesn't obsess about it.
No,
like,
not
that's
at
one
all.
Of the keys.
And he eats what he wants. He doesn't say, sorry, I shouldn't be eating this, or as he's reaching in for his... He loves little red dogs. So he loves going to a kid's party and having bright red... Are they even around anymore, Kyla?
I haven't seen them for a while, but I'm sure they are.
Anyway, no comment.
I know, my lips are sealed. Well, I was going to say, being the oldest one around, the most mature one around the table. I have experienced like kids growing up in those, those sort of diet years, and the teenager side, and now they're in their late 20s, early 30s. Both the girls love cooking, but they have grown up. Been very fortunate that I grew up in a food loving household, and it was always fun. food. It was always fun. It always meant people were coming round for dinner. We'd be allowed to stay up in our pyjamas and hand around the nibbles beforehand with all the grown-ups who talked to us.
And her mum did a dessert cart, so not one dessert when people came over, but like options. It's like my dream come true.
She's just, her house is amazing. She's 86 now, and every Sunday when I speak to her, most Sundays she'll say, we've got such and such coming around for dinner, so I've just about done everything. Look, here's my roast pork, or here's, like, she'll show me things on FaceTime. So much of our conversation is around food, but it gives her so much pleasure. Poor darling, she's got macular degeneration. Both her hands are
she can
see,
smell and
she can just about stand up. She loves cooking still. It still gives her that joy that I've been lucky enough to experience. But I think it's rubbed off on all of our family down through the generations. But I will have to say to you that in the last couple of years, things have been happening to my body because of, obviously, I'm in my early 60s. But obviously I
have to say our age.
I have been through menopause. I'm out the other side, but I have seen a huge change in my body. And
does it make you want to reach and look for ways to answer what you perceive as a problem? Do you know what?
I now know at 60 what I need to do, and I'm doing it now, and the weight's coming off, but I need to be in the right mental
and not
place.
Feeling guilty.
And this is where I think, Kyla, when you're talking about younger people with children and school and after school stuff and things, sport at the weekends, and they're working full time, and so is mum and dad working full time, like, it is massive. So I think it's, it is how your life is working as well at the same time.
Fitting into that. You have to have a balance.
To make your food choices. Because I know I had craft dinner when I was in my teens, and my children had craft dinner.
Yes. Oh my God.
But that is the point, right? Is that
in amongst
if you had
10
hours a day to make everything from scratch and, mince your own meat and do your own, great. But if you don't, you also don't have to live to that expectation. You can absolutely use convenience foods and still provide a nutritious diet.
When I was living in Tasmania, somebody that I met over there said, I know where all of my food comes from, where it's been grown. Brilliant. But that is actually not a possibility for most people.
No.
Most of us are just doing our best and going to the shops and doing a bit of cooking and getting a takeaway.
And that's fine.
It's okay.
And I would argue that, sure, that person probably knows where all their foods come from, but they probably have no idea about one other part of their life, or they're probably not active because they spend so much time cooking. Or, it's never, you are never trumping everybody at everything.
So Australia now has the 5th highest ranking in terms of childhood obesity, with a view to heading up the ranks to 2nd by 2050. And what kind of a factor do you think food marketing has played here?
I would question that statistic and where that's come from.
Sure.
Our rates of childhood obesity have been stable for the past 17 years. Right. We have not seen, what we have seen is a 6-fold increase in dieting. We've seen 2/3 of Australian adolescents who feel uncomfortable in their body, who restrict food, who have some kind of disordered eating. That's huge numbers. Yeah. We are seeing a trend, in my opinion, to this really problematic way of eating, disordered body image. And for a long time, there's been a big focus on obesity. There's been the obesity epidemic of the 90s. But when we actually unpack a lot of that evidence and research, it doesn't stand up as being this obsession that it has become. And I mean, we're talking a lot of that evidence early came at the time of The Biggest Loser, where we put people on TV and laughed at the size of their body and terrible things.
The fact that they were losing weight that quickly would have been just horrific on their body.
And what we're starting to see though is the flip side of that. It's been all well and good to kind of focus on that for a while, but what we're not noticing is actually our rate of eating disorders is way overtaking that. And that's a real problem. And that's where I think we've got to be careful about health and nutrition and the intersection and what are we accidentally doing in some of these cases.
Well, I think social media might have a huge influence. So, Trace, do you want to sneak into this one?
Kate Flower Food, specialists in strategy and styled content for food, product and lifestyle brands. Smart, beautiful visual marketing, crafted to connect. So if we move from the supermarket aisle to the online world, what do we find? So you've lived online for the last 10 years, growing the Mealtimes business. What have you seen happen on social media regarding information or misinformation about food?
I think the longer I've been on there, the more outrageous the lies I've seen. And I'm not sure if people who spread this misinformation truly believe it. I suspect they do. But some of the information is just
outrageous,
beyond comprehension. Like, I cannot. There are times when people will send me a video and say, like, is this true? And I'm like, not even vaguely. Like, that's not even cherry picked from something and then extrapolated. That is just outright not true. But
do you ever take the time to actually report anyone?
I used to make a lot of effort when I was younger. These days, reporting something like that to Instagram or somebody, they do not care.
Sure.
The difficulty is that the proof, like, to prove that they're wrong, the burden that puts on the person having to explain and debunk is huge.
Yeah.
And for something that's made up, like, it's actually really hard to disprove something that somebody's just invented. Like,
well, also the words are out. Once those words are out, you can't take them back.
And the
so
sharing,
you can't unlisten.
The sharing is on.
And the fear. The fear's embedded. Like, everybody's like, oh gosh, I didn't know that. I'm like, yeah, because it's not a thing.
I'm an adult and I can find myself getting a bit carried away, and then I have to go and, kind of rein it back in and go, oh, for God's sake, there is probably no truth in this. And especially if you start going down rabbit holes.
Oh, once you're in a rabbit hole, and especially in that kind of echo chamber where people are, saying the same things, it does get really challenging.
So is there just information overload?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and I think every part of...
absolutely. Who do you trust?
Yeah.
Who do you trust?
Across food altogether, across parenting, food is just one part of that. There is so much information, so much of it poor information. And I think that's where people really struggle, is trying to filter through what is fact, what is fiction, what is misleading. And it's not always easy to find a trusted source of information.
We know one.
Would that be something that you would suggest to listeners, is to find a trusted person
and delete everybody else?
Yeah.
Stop listening.
So the algorithm on your phone is on these social media platforms is going, oh, they've just watched all of that influencer saying something which is a bit scary or frightening. Fear-mongering. We're going to push more that way. So the more you engage with them, the more you'll see them on your feed. So would your advice be to unfollow them, or you can say, I'm not interested in this?
Yep. All of the above.
Yeah, I'm not interested in this.
And honestly, that's where my business was born, was this. I was having the same questions again and again, and the same things being sent to me, like, this isn't true, is it?
Panic.
And I was like, actually, these people just need to hear
some
the
solid,
basics, solid, sensible, consistent, advice that fits into their lives. Because also these people are all selling a powder or a potion, or you have to subscribe to this thing or that thing, and it's just too much. And so I think, that's been one of my real mission statements, is to provide, evidence-based information without the fear, without the guilt, without the shame.
For Australians.
Yes.
For Australians, because so much of that evidence, or that so-called truth on social media is from the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Is from Europe,
a lot
or
of
it's from America.
Urban legend.
We're not even global.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you think that, you're an influencer? Well, you are. You influence how people... as people who follow you for good advice. So you definitely have an influence, and there's all kinds of influencers. What responsibility do you think influencers have when sharing nutrition advice, and should it be regulated?
Absolutely. I take it really seriously. The things that I will put out are 100% the things that I practice, believe, do myself, which does probably apply to other people. But the evidence base is such a core guiding belief for me that we can only build on, what we actually know. And it's really inappropriate to just share something you think. And so that and all dietitians should be like that, but not always, but we have code of conduct, and we have these things. It is probably
tempting sometimes to buy into the keywords that are capturing people and the hashtags and whatnot to build your following in your business or whatever it might be. So,
and it's really tricky because like negative hooks get people in. So if you lead with 3 things to avoid or what you shouldn't do, people watch it. And I have made a commitment from the very early days that I don't sell with fear or lead with, worry. So I choose not to do that, and I probably don't get the reach of, somebody who is more willing to do that, but that's something I'm happy to.
You seem to have a very strong reach. You've got like 147,000 followers at this point in time, hooking into you for strong, reliable information. So that's pretty amazing.
Thanks.
So if there's one mental filter that you'd love people to apply when reading any nutrition claim or hearing it, what would it be?
One filter.
Mental filter.
I think if you're reading a label, I suspect you're probably buying more of a snack food style and I would just ask yourself, is this something I want to eat? Like that I will enjoy, I want to be part of. In that case, great. My approach to eating and food and nutrition is really about what can you add in rather than what you can take out. So I don't think you need to read a nutrition label and be like, be ready for this, or this is a red flag, or any of these things. I think you just want to be like, is this something I actually want to have in my house? Yeah, in my life. Do I enjoy eating it? Great. And then having, mostly core foods most of the time, but finding those moments for enjoyment as well. And so it probably wouldn't be, and there's just so many products. I just don't think one filter ever applies to, like we were talking about before, a chicken nugget versus an apple. You just can't kind of whittle everything down to a yes or a no. So I would be like, do you enjoy it? She's
not going to give us the final answers.
I just will not say yes or no.
It's still our responsibility
exactly
to make these decisions on behalf of ourselves, sometimes on behalf of our families. And it doesn't have to be complicated.
And it doesn't have to be correct all the time. Like you do not have to achieve a level
how your
of
neighbour
perfect
lives and how you live are different.
Completely different.
And your cultural backgrounds are different. So therefore the ingredients, we're not all one little, black and white creature, are we? So let's wrap up by getting personal. What is even more personal? What is a habit that you actually actively use at home, Kyla, to build healthy food relationships for your family? So you've got 2 daughters. They're still in primary school?
Yeah. My youngest has just started primary school. Yes, and my oldest is in primary school.
It's a nice time.
The one thing that I am non-negotiable about is this neutrality when it comes to food. You will not hear me talking about food in a disparaging way, any kind of food, or in a healthy way. I won't be talking about the nutrients in it. I will be talking about, we have broccoli and pork and noodles for dinner. It is not about what's a good thing to eat, how much. So being neutral about food, using its name, is one of my core ones.
Sorry, kids. I'm apologising now to my teenage children.
There's plenty of flexibility in it, but then also really trusting them to be the boss of their body. That my job is providing the food and their job is listening to their tummy and eating as much as they need to be full, and then moving on with their life. That we don't obsess about. We enjoy food, 100%. And I loved what you were talking about, Tracey, with teaching this love of food and of cooking and how it works. I wish all kids were afforded that. And unfortunately, a lot of the things they learn about food are just what to be scared of. Imagine though if we could...
They are scared of food.
Or there's no,
scared of food.
Or there's no conversation
in
their household about food. Food's not something that is discussed. It's just...
Or it's just to limit, you can't have that, there's not enough of this, only one. And though I think, really trusting kids to be the boss of their body, they are born to...
listen to it.
Yeah, eat a variety, to do the things that their body needs to do. And sometimes we can get in the way of that. But I love this idea of confident eaters, building knowledge and skill. That's food literacy, right? Is them having the ability to prepare and store and cook and make food and enjoy it without constantly being like, I shouldn't have that, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't have that.
My son's got a great connection to his body, how he feels and what he wants to eat. So he'll eat a McDonald's sundae sometimes, but he's like, and now I need a salad and this is what I feel like. And I'm really hungry, or
which is
and
beautiful.
it's really nice to watch. I'm
It's
like, great.
That's
I'll
far
try and
more
help
fun,
you.
isn't it? That's far more
100%.
fun to think of it like that. That's lovely.
Yeah. Whereas
Really
the girls,
lovely.
I feel like, are just a little bit more disconnected, and I wonder if it's that male female.
Yeah, and there's
thing,
a whole
lot
lot
more messaging
more
around
pressure
how your body
and
should look. Although it's certainly, as you said before, it's catching up big time with the boys and gym bro mentality.
It's quite scary.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is, with your children, you do want them to be healthy. You want them to have the healthiest possible life that they can possibly have, because that means
But mentally and
happy
physically.
and
See, and this is
happy
where
and
I
healthy.
think our definition of health is so important,
Yeah.
because health is not just the absence of disease, right? Health
No.
is about mental health,
Yes,
social health, physical
yes.
health, and I think
And
in
nuanced.
fact it's really unhealthy to go to somebody's house and decline the dessert because you're watching what you eat and not participating in a meal because you're controlling your carbs or whatever it is. I think that's really problematic. It's really bigger than just perfect eating or optimizing your diet.
I was listening
Much
to a
bigger.
great podcast, and we were listening to a footballer who has had an amazing career, but he had disordered eating for a period of time, but he didn't know, and he was just trying to keep his fat folds down. Is that what you call it? And he got to the point where he'd only eat clean things: chicken breast, broccoli, and then he'd go out for dinner and he'd be anxious and not involved, like somewhere else, because the whole time. And it took family members and people around him at the club to say, actually, mate, you've tipped way over the edge. And he's managed to turn it back around. But it is hard for the boys as well.
So, Kate, what's your habit that you actively use at home to build healthy food
My
relationships?
messaging, when I'm not accidentally telling the kids that something's bad, is
Don't have to beat yourself up.
Yeah, don't.
thank you, you
Yeah,
guys.
stop that.
Yeah, I love doing that. A little bit of self-flagellation. I do a lot of, the more good stuff you put in, the less likely you are to put lots of the less nutritious food.
How are you going to talk about this?
Oh, she got caught. So it's like, eat all the, let's eat, it's like saying, eat your dinner and then have dessert. Yes, you don't have to eat every single thing. I am not a, you must clean your plate person at all. But yeah, the more good stuff that goes in, probably the less bad stuff that, as I see
Yes,
it,
as you
will
said,
end up
absolutely.
going in.
And mine would be, just in case anyone's interested.
I am. We're super interested. Please do tell.
Well, you know what I do and what I love to do. People who know me out there listening, I get my kids involved and have done right from the start in cooking, in putting things together, in actually going, here's a carrot, and we're going to grate this carrot. Or, we're going to like teach them what you're putting into things so that they're not scared of things going in together and they have to have everything separate. Not that, that is a thing with a lot of kids, and they're like that when they're discovering
that could be a whole
things.
podcast, as you probably have made.
When they're discovering things and textures and flavors. So getting them to cook and take pride and understand the endeavor that's gone into that food, and look at that carrot in those lovely meatballs and go, oh, that orange stuff in there was carrot because I grated it. Oh, that looks really great.
So
and pretty,
connecting children
absolutely.
to food so they understand
and
where
the joy of
where
cooking.
it's come from.
The
and
joy of
what it
cooking.
is.
And I know that needs time, and I know, and
I think everything that's good though needs time.
It
It's
does.
it's
and I
baby
think it's
steps.
And it doesn't always
prioritising.
land at certain ages.
I mean, making meatballs, oh my God, what a fun thing to do with kids, to have something that's not sweet. So a lot of kids will go, I'll come and
I'll
bake
make
with
chocolate
you.
crackers, or I'll make a cake.
Absolutely.
Which
but
is fun
making
too,
meatballs,
but-
and they're rolling them, and they're, getting messy, and they can feel it in their hands.
and you want to stop them because you're really annoyed at how much mess is being made, but you're like, no, keep going.
You don't. It's just, I think it's just organising it to be something that maybe even starting off with, okay, can you just whisk that egg for me to put in the meatballs to bind it?
And understanding
Do you know
that's
what I
what's
mean?
happening
Like that's the start of then
I do
going.
think that is a challenge for families, especially
It's
when you're
hard.
short on time.
Very hard.
But actually breaking it down into smaller bits and just having a participation, part.
And then
whether
next
it's just
time,
the egg,
next time it's like, oh, we're making scrambled eggs. You know how to do these eggs. Can you whisk them for me? I'm like, oh, I've learned something, and now I can help with breakfast.
Yeah.
Just
So what's
about
been your takeaway from chatting to Kyla today?
Oh, my takeaway has definitely been so much, but I think it's really great to talk to somebody who's non-biased. That's my biggest thing with you, Kyla, is that it's not,
it feels
non-biased.
very non-judgmental, which
It's
is lovely.
non-judgmental. It's like the acceptance of life does happen to us, but it is up to us to decide what our priorities are and what's important to you. And it just depends on where you're at in your life. If you've got young kids, if you've got teenagers, if you've got kids that have left home, if you're, getting on in life. Not that I am or Anthony is or anything like that. But if, we're obviously, we've got no kids at home, so we can actually eat what we want to eat, when we want to eat, how we want to eat it, etc., etc. So that brings a whole new level of freedom around it, and not having to worry that what I put in the fridge, I know what I put in the fridge that I've actually saved for a meal later on down the track will not be eaten by somebody who doesn't tell me that it's eaten, and I can always go into the fridge and find it, except if Anthony sees it.
Yeah. I love that though, because what my message is not that nutrition isn't important, but it's that it's only a part of all of the things that happen with food. And yes, it's an important role, but it's not the be all and end all. We don't have to be obsessed by nutrients and milligrams and all of the things. It actually can just fit into our lives and be, just one part.
Yeah, I love, my takeaway would be, don't get caught up in the spin.
Yes.
And definitely the messaging needs to be, for me, to drop any guilt, especially around my kids and my feeling that feeding them well, whatever that looks like, is really important, and more important than them just enjoying the experience.
But you know what I thought this morning? Before you came, you said to me that you'd done up all your lunch boxes for your kids. They are going to remember that for the rest of their lives.
And I do ask them what they want. I don't, I'm not putting whatever. So
Lucky
Charlie
children.
at the moment loves a bit of a, Coles lettuce salad, and she wants a Coles dressing that she's found, a Green Goddess Coles dressing. Fine. Good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I think the thing to help you in that is that your kids learn from what you do, not what you say.
Yeah.
And so even when what you're saying is really well intended, you actually don't need to teach them overt lessons. What they're learning is what a lunch looks like normally. And they're going to go through periods of rebellion at different ages and, different challenges. And, when they move out of home or they have less money or whatever it is, they might eat differently. But what they come back to is what they learnt was normal for those formative years.
And I do feel like I can recognise that in my adult life now, looking back to the simple eating we did when I was growing up. Yes, there was a bit of guilt around, in that weight loss era, but it was just a lot of simple food. So
yeah,
I think that's what food is. It's quite simple, really.
Yeah, it can be. And that's quite empowering.
Yeah. No, I think we just need to thank Kyla for all of the glorious information and lack of guilt and clarity that you have provided today, and sharing your expertise with our listeners who need someone to help them just cut through the bullshit.
We all do.
Yeah, we all do.
No matter where you're
at. Keep it simple and feel okay about food in your home. And
as you said, those lovely core ingredients, really important. And then just adding bits on top.
Yeah, for enjoyment.
Yeah, for enjoyment. Well, I like the core ingredients as well.
Absolutely.
Great enjoyment.
Absolutely. So we'll be sharing all of Kyla's connection points on our web pages and in the show notes. But for now, you can give her a quick follow at Dr_Kyla, Kyla, for grounded, no-nonsense guidance. And I'll be looking more often these days. I feel like it's time for a nice reminder. But thank you so much for joining us. And it's been lovely introducing Tracey to you. I can see that there's a nice little...
Sitting around the table.
Yeah.
Oh, it's lovely.
Oh,
Thank
my
you
pleasure.
very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Curious Cooks. And if you know someone else who would enjoy this conversation, please share it with them.
We love hearing from our listeners, so let us know what you are curious about. You can follow us on Instagram at Curious Cooks Podcast, and keep listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
And if you like to watch and listen, subscribe to The Curious Cooks on YouTube. We'll see you there.